a video that I first saw on TikTok that has started to make its rounds on Twitter is there's a casino in Vegas that has like a PSA vending machine where it's like $50 and it's essentially just like a glorified mystery pack vending machine. I think, sorry, let me gather my thoughts here. If you were to go back to 2020, 2021, I think it was, when I was really doing a lot of content for Instagram or on Instagram, one of the predictions that I made a couple different predictions. One of the predictions, I must have been, I think it was going into 2021, I'm pretty sure. One of the predictions I made was that I thought one of the PSA 10 mantles was going to sell. Now, one of the PSA 10s didn't sell. One of the PSA 9s sold early on in 2021. So I wasn't necessarily correct there, but I was kind of correct because it's the only PSA 9 that has sold since then, and it's as close as you can get to a PSA 10 selling. The other prediction that I made was that I thought sports cards were going to go into... I thought casinos were going to start doing something having to do with sports cards. Now, I had some good conversations with people about why that couldn't happen and why people thought that that wasn't something that casinos would want to do. I actually think sports books, it would make sense if you could buy boxes of sports cards at sports books. I don't think you can do that. Like, I'm pretty sure you can bring them, but I don't think there's any sports books where you can buy cards and do either breaks or buy like a box of cards, which, like I said, I think that would be kind of a cool thing. Now, the money aspect of it is really, whenever I come up with these ideas, I always think things would be cool, but then I look at it and say, well, where's the money being made? And realistically, unless the sports book were to open up their own card shop, like I don't know if there would be enough of a audience necessarily to open up a sports card store within a casino. Unfortunately, I do think that it would be cool, but again, the money aspect of it makes me probably think that this isn't going to happen. Unless Fanatics, because Fanatics does have a sports book. So or online at least, if they were to, I don't know, if they were to buy like an actual casino, which, like I said, this is one of the things that I thought maybe they could, like when I was discussing what their next move could be, they've already really done a lot of big things. I didn't know what their next move could be, so I think maybe it could be something like that, like, because like I said, they already have a sports book, and a sports book, like people can gamble with Fanatics sports book, which I've heard, I don't know. I think the sports book craze, I think it's a trend right now, and I'm fairly confident in the next few years we're going to probably see some of these casinos at least slow down or close, like the sports books at least. The casinos, they probably will never close. Because just the fact that there are so many, it's like, it's whoever, I don't know, because there's something called sports betting arbitrage, which is like, if you can find a good line on one sports book, and then you can bet the opposite on a different one, it's almost like buying and selling lines, essentially. But I'm wondering here, this is kind of the one thing, going back to this vending machine concept, is I wonder, like, if PSA is allowing something like this, because this is, they're using the PSA branding, and this maybe even goes to the mystery packs, like, people who are selling these mystery packs and then this vending machine, for example, they're using the PSA branding to sell people on this thing that they're trying to do. And even worse with the vending machine is there's just no checklist, and I think that's my biggest issue when it comes to the mystery pack concept, is that if there's no checklist, if you don't know what cards can be pulled, then it just seems like it's a pretty big scam. Like, it's just a massive. I actually think it should be maybe illegal to not disclose what's in a sports card product if you are selling it. And this is also the thing where it's like, what's the marketing that you're doing around this, the mystery packs? Because if you look at it, like, are they still promoting the best card? Like, I don't know. We've just seen so many issues. The regulations within sports cards, I feel like they don't really exist right now. So there's people out here who are doing it, I think, the correct way. But then I think that there are people who are purposely not doing the right way, doing it the right way for their own profit. I think we've seen that happen over the past few years where companies have done that and they failed, whether it's group breaking people or it's people on Whatnot or people on any of these selling sites or it's people selling on eBay or any of these things. We've seen people and companies get in trouble because they're not, and not even in trouble. They get in trouble with the community, like not even in trouble from any type of entity within sports cards, because there isn't like a gambling commission for cards, which that's something that down the road I would like to see, because I think it's going to help customers and it's going to essentially make our industry more legitimate. I think right now it is. I wouldn't say our industry is not legitimate, but I think the avenues of which people can scam other people, it's really just like, I don't know. It seems like people can just scam and then just either leave the industry or they can just get away with it and keep doing it, really. Like, because we've seen on Whatnot, like Whatnot has done an okay job. I think they could do a little bit of a better job vetting some of these sellers, because if you just allow anybody to sell on the platform, I understand that they want to create a platform that allows anybody to buy and sell, but it's like, if you own like a business, for example, or if you own something where you're running any type of business, there's usually some sort of license that you have to get. And this is where I know I'm kind of all over the place here with this episode, but like, these are just things that within the concept of the vending machine that's selling PSA 10s, I just think that there are issues that could arise from these things. And, whether it's the PSA branding or it's the no checklist or any of these things, I think, if you're a casino, you're probably more likely to be above board. I mean, they do have to answer, to commissions and stuff like that. But I think the concept of creating a license that you have to buy and sell, like, this is where also just reselling in general. I think that the reselling, and this is what I've talked about this in the past, the reselling of new products, new things, whether it's sports cards, or whether it's anything online. Like, there's Twitter accounts and there's Discord servers and places where you can learn to buy and sell, and they buy things at the retail price and then they sell it for more. I don't think you should be allowed to do that. I think that actually should be illegal, because it hurts it. The only person that it helps is the person that's selling the thing. All it does is hurt consumers, because the only way to buy something is you have to spend you're basically scalping tickets, which everybody, I think, could agree, nobody likes scalpers. No one likes scalpers. No one likes people who are buying and selling tickets for more money. I think in this era, we've seen so many different ways to make money that it feels like if you are trying to make money by just charging more for something that shouldn't be, you shouldn't be able to just charge someone more for something just because you were able to buy it and they weren't. Maybe it's something similar with sports cards, where there's a license that you have to get. I think, obviously, if you're getting product, you have to get the, distributor information, and if distributor can decide whether they at least I think that this would be the case. Distributors can decide whether they believe you're doing what you're doing is correct or incorrect, and they can tell you which way to do it. So I just think overall, I think that I wish that there was a way I wish there was a little bit more regulation within the industry. I wish that there was maybe even licenses that you had to get to, if you are selling above a certain amount, that's where I think you maybe should have to get a license. If you are selling at a certain value, or you have a company that doesn't sell at a certain level, like maybe that's okay. But it's like once you start getting to a point where you're selling a certain amount of product, or you're selling a certain amount of a thing, that's where I think a license has to come into place, just based on the fact that every other industry has licenses, and we are really one of the only industries, which some people might say is good, because anybody can get into it. But at the same time, anybody can get into it, whether they have good intentions or they have bad intentions. All right, look, I am recording this podcast after USA lost to Uruguay, which I'm disgusted, I'm appalled, I'm disappointed. I will go into look, if this is not the point of the podcast, so when you're listening to the intro, you're going to say, why is he talking about USA Soccer when that's not what he was going to talk about in the intro? Look, if Bullholzer is still the coach by the end of the week, like, he's going to be the coach probably for the World Cup, and I'm not as excited as I was for the World Cup. If Bullholzer is the coach going into the World Cup, I will be as not excited as I was excited for him to be for US to. I'm just so annoyed and angry, but okay, sorry. So I just want to get that out of the way really quick, because USA doesn't qualify for the group stage. They're out in the, they didn't qualify for the knockout stage. They're out in the group stage. It's pathetic. It's disgusting. It's all of the terrible adjectives that you can think. I'm so pissed off. The point of what I'll talk about on the podcast today is going to be, there is a Caitlin Clark signature series collection that Panini is coming out with, which they are going to include. It's going to include Caitlin Clark cards from, it seems like, basically from what I've seen, from the images that I've seen, it seems like it's going to be a Chronicle style product for Caitlin Clark specifically, which I'm about, because I think that they need to, if when Fanatics is going to get the NBA license, if they're also getting the WNBA license, which I don't know one way or the other if they are or aren't, because I know that the NBA, WNBA are working in partnership. I don't know if that means their licenses, their IP is all working together as well. If Panini is going to, I think that they should have expanded. I don't think that this is the way that they should have expanded. If this is the only expansion from Prism that they've come out with for the past couple years, there have only been Prism WNBA products for since 2020. There's probably been one or two other products, but for the most part, Prism has been their main driver of WNBA products. I think that this year would have been the year to expand the products that they have, especially since they got Angel Reese as an exclusive. They got Clark as an exclusive. You have the two biggest stars, I think, in the league. Or rookies, at least. But I think that it also opens up an interesting conversation that I think I've been wavering on a little bit. I think as someone who, personally, I've been following the WNBA for a couple years now, and then women's basketball also. I think with Caitlin Clark and then with Sabrina Ionescu from 2020. And then, like, last year was Leah Boston. I've been following the WNBA and the WNBA cards. They really haven't expanded the way that I thought they may have tried to. Because if in the past few years they had tried to, I think that they would have had some pretty solid, like a back catalog of products that they could have tried to promote. They could have tried to do all of these things within the sport in general. And, you know, the one thing that's happened this year, and I actually think that I saw a video that is a conspiracy video talking about basically like how Caitlin Clark isn't really trying to, she isn't really trying to engage in the, like, overall conversation about her and, like, the other players in the league. And it also talked about, like, Paige Beckers, who's going to be playing at UConn this upcoming year, who, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, if she hadn't gotten hurt, I think that she would be more popular. If she hadn't gotten hurt the year that she did, I think that she would be more popular than Caitlin Clark right now. Because I think they would both be rookies, and I think it would have been probably her and Caitlin Clark would have been 1 and 2, one way or the other. I don't know who would have gone 1 and 2. But I think that, realistically, I think they would have gone 1 and 2. And I think they would be rookies in the league right now. And it would be competing of who, and also we'll go back to last year, because Paige Beckers wouldn't have missed that whole year. She missed a whole year because she tore her ACL in the first practice of the season, meaning she missed a year, obviously. But she has this year coming up, and like I said, I think that she's actually going to, I don't know if she's going to surpass, I don't know if she's going to surpass Caitlin Clark in terms of popularity, but I think there's a chance that she could. I really think there is a real potential that, because of the media right now, and I think the way that the media has worked within that sport and within WNBA and within women's basketball, I think there's a chance that they could try and push her the same way that they push Caitlin Clark. I unfortunately, obviously, don't think that she will break any, like, scoring record or anything like that, so that's obviously not going to happen. But I think the overall conversation behind women's basketball right now is like, and I think it's actually, I don't want to say it's a conspiracy, or I don't want to say that it's necessarily coordinated, but I think that, you know, I think that the rookies and the players that are in the league right now are just as interesting and could be just as popular as Caitlin Clark is, because you look at, like, Angel Reese, for example, like, she broke the rookie record for how many double-doubles in a season, which is like, she plays a totally different position than Caitlin Clark, so it's like, you know, she's not out there shooting all of these crazy threes and scoring a ton of points, but she is just as impactful for her team, I think, as Caitlin Clark is. So the fact that I think Panini chose to, choose Caitlin Clark as a player they're going to come out with a specific product for, I think it makes sense. But I think if you were to have chosen rookies in general within the WNBA, I think that would be just as beneficial a decision as it would be to make a Caitlin Clark specific product, because that's what this is. It's a Caitlin Clark collection. I believe that's what the product is called. I think that there are other rookies this year that are going to be stars within this league. So I hope that in this next year, we do see that Panini chooses to include some of these other rookies and that they choose to expand the WNBA products that they are using, because I think that it's a good class of players. And I think just including Caitlin Clark is a decision that I think is okay. But I think I wish that they would include some of the other players, because I don't think that it's just Caitlin Clark that is impactful in this year's WNBA, and then I think going forward as well. Topps and the Minnesota Twins are teaming up for Minnesota Twins, the Topps trading card day at the ballpark, and they're giving away a pretty sweet card, card. One time I was at a barbershop, and I was telling someone that I was going to a sports card show, and they thought I said sports car, so they started naming off things that were... They started naming off things that were having to do with cars, and I had no idea what they were talking about, and then I realized they were talking about cars. Sorry, that's a tangent for... that's just a funny story that happened one time. But Twins Trading Card Day at their ballpark. I don't know what their full plans are for the exact day. I mean, I'm sure it'll be coming out relatively soon. I'm hoping that every team would be willing to do this. I mean, this is an example, I think, of a way that Topps is trying to... Topps and Fanatics, because obviously we know the meme of 10xing the hobby or whatever, which I guess people thought that was going to happen overnight, because to be honest, we kind of did see it overnight in 2020, which was kind of surprising. Well, I don't know, surprising to some. Just to some, it was a little bit more obvious. Like, if you were creating content, you probably saw the rise and all of that stuff within that time period. But I think their strategy right now has been, and will probably continue to be, to target smaller fan bases, specific fan bases, and do things for that fan base. Whether it's, doing a Minnesota Twins specific trading card day, or coming out with like an Alabama football set, or, any of the other specific sets that they've come out with that are not like a full team, or, well, not a full team, not like a full league set. And I don't know. I'm surprised that people are so willing to say that the strategy isn't going to work, or that they're surprised, or that they... And it might just be that it's a meme. Like, I actually think that it's probably a meme, because for people within sports cards, I don't see why... I've never really seen why it wouldn't be great to have more people who are in the industry, or who are into cards. Like, I get it's probably like, it happens within music all the time. It's like you find a band early on, and then once everyone starts to like them, for some reason people start to not like them. I don't know. That could be kind of similar with what has sort of happened with sports cards over the past few years. Like, people saw like that... for example, they were fans of trading cards, and they saw the rise go up. So the card specifically that they're giving away is going to be a Joe Mauer, Byron Buxton, Topps Sterling. Looks like it's a 1-of-1. I don't see the 1-of-1 on the like the stamp itself on there. So I don't know if it's maybe of 99 potentially, like maybe the stamp is on the back. I don't know. They only show the picture of the front, so I don't know if the stamp is maybe on the back, or if it even is stamped at all, which it looks like a card that would be a 1-of-1, if I'm going to be honest. Like, the dual logos, and I mean the patches that they used on these cards are actually really cool. I think that they use some great patches, and with Topps, they've done such a better job, in my opinion, at using actual patches from games and authenticating them, and using the like holographic stickers, where basically every patch that Panini uses is not real. And I think that's another conversation for another day. But like, so, you have the Minnesota Twins tweeting this out. They're going to have a whole thing probably at the stadium, and they're giving away the card on Twitter. I don't know if they're also doing it on Instagram. I didn't see it on Instagram, but on Twitter, you can go to the link that they tweeted out and you can enter about why you would want to, or that's where the rules are. Because I think the way you win is you tweet at them basically, and you say why it would be a great card to add to your collection, which I guess is good. I mean, I think it's probably fine because I think you're going to have a ton of different people who are going to enter, and probably the tweet reply is going to help them maybe a little bit more. Now, or I guess, I don't know, maybe the marketing itself will help probably Topps more than the Twins, if I'm going to be honest, because like the Twins being a professional sports team, although the MLB is pretty notorious for having low follower counts on a lot of their social media, so maybe it will help the Twins, to be honest. Like, I'm just going to click on the tweet and just see. So the Twins have 700,000 followers on Twitter, and Topps has 250K. So, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily going to help one way or the other. I think it's obviously a marketing campaign. I mean, anytime a company like Topps, or I guess you could maybe say even the Twins, are doing something like this on social media, it's all part of a campaign where, I don't know, I mean, I think that there's probably, like, I don't know if you can gather information from Twitter necessarily, like if you can pull if they have any customer data you can pull from Twitter. I don't think you would be able to do that, because I don't think Twitter really is like that. Like Facebook, for example, you can target them, and maybe that's what it is. I mean, it could be like they're getting added to some sort of spreadsheet, and they're going to be targeted with certain Topps Twins ads. Maybe that could be what they're trying to do here, and grow the fanhood that already exists with the Twins. And this goes back to my point, like taking a group of fans and exposing them to cards in a way that, like, maybe they hadn't been exposed to in the past. Like, I think with the specific team aspect of it, I'm wondering, because just thinking about it from a marketing perspective and a marketing mind here, like, I wonder for them if, like, the Twins have some sort of analytic thing. Like, that's really where my mind kind of goes here. It's like, why were the Twins potentially the first one? Like, did they look at something and they said, oh, well, there is X amount of people who reply to certain things that are Twins fans? I don't really know. Like, it may just be that they're going to hopefully do all 30 teams. Like, I would imagine maybe they'll do it with the Red Sox. Maybe they'll do it with, I don't know, the Mariners, for example. Like, maybe you'll see like some sort of like Ichiro, Julio Rodriguez card. Like, that would be kind of cool. Or like, maybe we'll see some sort of like, I don't know, like Yankee card. That would be cool. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if maybe they look at it and they say, well, we know that certain fan bases are not going to show us or give us the reaction that we're looking to get. So that's why maybe they chose the Twins overall. But I do think down the road, I am hoping that they do this with other teams. And as they start to get more of the licenses, maybe this is a opportunity that they're actually going to be doing with, maybe there could even be cross promotion between like the NFL, NBA, and MLB potentially down the road. Like, maybe this is like they do like a Boston sports day, or they do like a day where they include all the fan bases from the city. Because Minnesota, you could do, I think that they have all of those teams that you could, they could do the Twins, they have the Minnesota Vikings, they have the Timberwolves. And I don't know, I mean, I would say if you look at those fan bases, like the Vikings, for example, I'd say that they're probably one of the better fan bases in the NFL in terms of a fan base of a team that, like, isn't really that good. And that's, maybe you could say the Twins, or maybe you could say, like, I don't know. I think the Timberwolves have made it pretty far, so you probably wouldn't be able to say that. But, like, maybe that's sort of another avenue that they're choosing. Maybe they're deciding what fan bases are getting it based on a couple different things. But I think this is a cool start for Topps, and I'm hoping that they continue to do this with other cities, maybe other sports potentially. But I think overall it's a really cool idea, and I'm excited to see what comes of this and what we see at, the Topps Trading Card Day at the Twins Stadium. So I talked to Danny, and I was like, oh, do we want to post an episode on 4th of July? And he was like, yeah, just look up some Hall of Famers or some players that were born on the 4th of July. That would be kind of a fun little episode. I looked up players, and surprisingly, I didn't really see many. So, Danny, I'm not ignoring the suggestion that you gave me to do for this episode. I looked up the number of players, and it just... the list, I didn't know any of the players, if I'm going to be honest. So that's why I'm not going with that topic. The topic that I will go with is... PSA actually came up with an update, and I know that if you're listening to this, we've had a couple, decent amount of PSA episodes recently, but there's been some important stuff. So they are actually making a sort of a correction here, and they put out a statement on Twitter. They said regarding the PSA label vending machines currently in Vegas, that those are not operated by PSA. And then they said that they're going to be trying to work with some of these vendors to basically make the branding not PSA. I don't know exactly. Basically, they said this machine, however, is not owned, operated, or controlled by PSA in any capacity. Despite this third-party test run of their machines has unfortunately created some confusion as to PSA's involvement. We are working with the vendor in real time to adapt the look and feel of these machines to feature less prominent PSA branding and or make it clearer that this is not operated by PSA. Which, that's what I talked about on Monday's episode. I don't know if that stirred any type of conversation from PSA. Maybe, maybe not. But they're trying to make it clear that these are not run by PSA, which I think obviously is very smart. And, sort of a little bit of a change from how PSA has, well, actually, it is a change and it isn't, because overall within sports cards and sports card marketing, I think that a lot of companies that operate within the sports card space use sports card brands as their main form of marketing and how they try and sell the product. But if you look at I could definitely see how if you were to look at these vending machines that they look like they were owned by PSA, if I'm going to be honest, just because PSA is everywhere and they're promoting PSA branded slabs, which realistically they still can do that. I think that they would still be able to do these branded slabs. They probably have to take that logo off. Like, that immediately was my first thing that I thought of about this, was like, has anyone at PSA seen this? Like, because there's no way that they're just allowed to use the PSA brand. Like, there's no way that they're just like, they're using the PSA branding as like a piece of their main marketing piece here. And I don't know who owns it. I'm sure it's probably the casino that owns it. They didn't mention if it's a casino or the vendor who exactly owns it here. But I do think that it is a good thing that PSA is getting out in front of this and saying, hey, this is not us. We're not doing this. And we are going to try. I don't know if they're going to shut it down or what exactly they're going to do. I think they probably, I don't know. They could probably shut these down, if I'm going to be completely honest, because they really, they just, for however long they've been open, they were just using the branding. They were just using PSA as their branding, their branding mechanism and their marketing mechanism. Because, obviously, I think it's fairly obvious if you are trying to sell these types of things, it's probably easier to use the PSA branding when you're saying it's a PSA 10, and then use the PSA logo, rather than to try and say that it is a graded card, because that would imply that maybe it couldn't be a PSA 10. But I don't know. I mean, these are the types of things, and I think I think I saw this take, and I definitely agreed with it, that, like, the house is always going to win here. If you're in Vegas, the amount of people, and here's, like, the crazy thing about Vegas is, like, if you become a good gambler, they just don't let you gamble there anymore. Like, if you win enough money at Vegas casinos, that's how you should know that gambling is really actually just sort of a scam, and that it's really, you should be just using it for fun, which I think, the way that it's branded on TV and stuff, it's, I don't know, it's not branded that way, like, realistically. Like, they are branding it as if, oh, you win all this money and you do all this stuff and it's really great. Oh, it was Chris Harris, who said, he was tweeting about this, and he was pointing out that the house always wins. And I would say there is a very good chance that that's the case here as well, because it's like, even if you put your money in and you get the card that's worth $300, or you get the card that you double your money, you also then have to sell the card, first of all. You also then have to, then also you don't know what cards are even in this thing. Like, that's kind of the thing that I don't really like about it, if I'm going to be completely honest, and why I talked about the mystery packs being sort of a scam. This thing is really a scam, because, like, they could just load this thing up with, like, garbage, like, terrible, worth nothing cards, and, even if they're PSA 10s, like, that doesn't mean they're going to be worth $50. Like, and at that $50 price point, like I said, it just doesn't. And if you're PSA, this is not probably something you want associated with your brand, realistically, because it's just gambling. And I understand that with the mystery packs, that's also gambling. But there's also, checklists. And if there isn't a checklist, I definitely advise people not to do this. But with these mystery packs, and there needs to be updates as well. Like, this is sort of the other thing, and there needs to be updates with what cards get pulled and all of these things. If you're not doing that, you're kind of scamming people, because you're promoting that you could pull these crazy cards. Like, for this example, I'm pretty sure they use, like, a Charizard PSA 10 as, like, the card on the machine, which is like, the chances you pull a Charizard PSA 10, I would be surprised. I don't know how many cards are in that machine or how often it's loaded, but I would almost say there is a 0% chance that you could pull a Charizard PSA 10 out of this machine. I don't know, I don't want to say I guarantee, but just based on the fact that it's in Vegas, I don't think you're going to be able to pull that. So either way, that's kind of the update here. A little bit of a shorter episode. We got 4th of July. Hope everybody enjoys. I'll take this time to thank everybody that's listened to the podcast. I mean, we have seen such amazing response from the podcast, and, even from the website, like, and all the writers and everything being right on the website. It's such a phenomenal experience, and I just want to always give a shout out to Danny. I mean, he has allowed me to really do my thing here on the podcast. Like, gives me notes and gives me suggestions on things, but never really oversteps at all. Like, and I think, at times I for sure think that there are times where I maybe talk about things a little bit too much, and he just gives a feedback and says, hey, don't talk about that as much. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And, I just want to give a shout out to all the writers who are writing such phenomenal pieces. I think we have some of the best writers in the industry at Hobby News Daily. And, Danny and I are working on the website every week, basically, to update, and a new feature we added on the latest articles that you can scroll through and you can click on like the next set of articles, and it shows you the next 5. We're also adding new sections down at the bottom to feature articles and press release from auction houses. So if you haven't checked out hobbynewsdaily.com, I highly suggest it. Like I said, that's pretty much all I've got for this episode. I want to say happy 4th of July to everybody, and make sure you're out there, make sure you are responsible, because the weather, especially if you're northeast, is going to be pretty good. That means I think things are going to get a little wild. So if you are out there having fun, just make sure you're being responsible, and make sure you're holding all of your friends accountable for being responsible as well. Because you never know what can go wrong, what can happen. So everybody out there, have some fun. Enjoy the beach, enjoy the barbecues, all of that stuff. Shout out to everybody listening. Thank you all for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, Heritage announced that I think that they're going to be selling one of I think maybe one of the biggest pieces of memorabilia of all time. I think you could say that. I think you could. I think with memorabilia, it really, I don't know. It comes down to the collector. It comes down to it's subjective. That's how I would put it. I think the piece of memorabilia, calling it as important as it is, it's a subjective thing. So for me, this is one of the bigger pieces that I've ever seen. Basically because it is a one of one. Like, we talk in sports cards all the time about big cards that are one of ones. I think that there are not many real, and I put real in quotations because there's obviously one of ones that are, they've got the stamp one of one, but I don't know. I think the term one of one within sports cards has been diluted a little bit because there are just so many of them. And I don't know if this is necessarily something that Fanatics should fix or they should change, but I feel like they need to somehow bring the prestige back to a one of one. Like, make the card the one of one, like, actually make it a one of one. Like, for example, like, Panini has like 3 different one of ones coming out of Prism of any given product, and it's like, what's even the point of calling it a one of one if there are 3 of them? Like, it's the base card with 3 different one of one variations. That, in my opinion, that makes the card not a one of one. Like, I get that it's the one of one variation of that card, but if there's a black one of one, if there's a black shimmer one of one, if there's a nebula one of one, if there's like, and I think some of the non-numbered parallels are probably one of ones as well that are just not numbered. I don't know. It just seems like they figured out a way to take something that should feel very rare and make it not rare. Which, again, this almost gets into the point that I talked about last week or a week before, where I was thinking about how, people who are opening packs and collectors' experiences when they're opening packs. And I don't know. I don't think it necessarily is like that they're manufacturing an experience for a collector by adding so many different parallels and so many different one of ones in there. But I do think that, I don't know. I think that having 3 different one of ones within a product just makes it not as important. And again, I think there's 2 sides of it. I think there's the one side of me that says the one of one there should be one of the card in the whole entire product, and it should be the most valuable card in the product. And then the other side of me says, well, if they want to, again, create an experience for a collector, creating that one of one experience for 3 different collectors of that same card, I don't think, and maybe my mindset on it is not the same as someone who's opening packs and doesn't really care as much. Maybe they look at it and say, well, the collector and the person opening the one of one, they're not like complaining if they open the one of one. Like, the value is still there. Like, sure, maybe the value is split up amongst 3 different cards. Similar to like what Bowman and Topps did with the Brady autographs that were the inscriptions. Like, the Brady autographs, I think they did them with like I don't know if the one of one Superfractor had an inscription, but I know that all of the 12 of 99, the 12 of 50, the 12 of 10, the 12 of, well, I guess, or actually, no, it would have been 12 of 10. But like the number to 12 cards all had the Brady inscription, in theory making those one of ones, because of the 99 or of the 50, it was the one card that was different and was unique for the product. So again, like I said, I think there's 2 different sides of it. And I think when it comes to one of one memorabilia, this is definitely one that I would say falls under that category, because it's Jackie Robinson's only only known signed game used bat that Heritage is going to be selling. Now, they did do the thing where someone wrote an article about it, and they retweeted it saying this is what the value of the thing is, which I don't love marketing items that way, if I'm going to be honest, and I know that they've done this with other cards. They've done it with other memorabilia pieces. Not necessarily heritage, not necessarily heritage in general, but companies within the hobby that have been selling cards. They've been selling memorabilia that have been rare like this. They've tried to put a value on it, which I think I think there's two sides of it. I think there is the one side that is the auction house that, first of all, they should know what the value is. I would be interested to know how accurate what the auction house projects a lot of these items to sell for actually really is. Also, they want the product to sell, or they want the memorabilia or card to sell as high as they can, so that way they're going to get commission. On the other side of that, I know this is the second time I've done this episode, but on the other side of that, I think that the market should be the one determining value. The value of products, the value of things that they're selling shouldn't be determined by what people are trying to sell the thing at, or like, the auction house or whatever it could be the person potentially. Like, for example, and I think they did this with there was like a Babe Ruth card that sold that, there were articles written in the Washington Post and all of these media outlets that you can just pay them to do PR for you. You can just pay to have articles written on their website about specific things. So, with that Babe Ruth card, they had articles written that this was going to be the most expensive sports card of all time sold, and it really wasn't close at all. But I think the thing that I didn't like about it was the fact that it wasn't close at all, but I wonder if the articles or the things that were written about the card increased the value. That's something I don't necessarily love, because I think the market should be the ones determining the value of an item. And I know that, I think in theory, I think that I think there are two sides of it. I know. There are two sides of the market determining value. There's the one side that is whoever is into the card should be able to pay whatever they want to. The other side is that, maybe people just don't. Maybe there's so many different auction houses. There's so many different sales. There's so many different places you can buy and sell these rare pieces of memorabilia that somebody who is buying some of these things, they may not even necessarily know if these things are being sold. So it's important to do the publicity. It's important to do the marketing around a product. But I think ultimately it should be the market determining the value, not an article written, or not a PR piece written, or not. I mean, I get that the auction house is going to do estimated value, but I wish that there was a way to go back and see the accuracy, because a lot of auction houses do this. Like, I think Heritage probably does it. I think REI does it. I don't know if Golden or PWCC did it, but like, they put estimated value of what a product should sell for. And I know you can do like a I forget the thing. It's like, if it doesn't sell for a certain amount, it doesn't sell. I forget the exact term for it, but it's like, if you have a card that you are basically unwilling to not set price, but like a low price. Like I said, I forget the exact terminology that's used for this type of thing, but like, if they set the price of what their lowest offer would be and it doesn't hit that, who is that on? Is that on the auction house? Is that on the seller? Like, I get that in some scenarios, the lowest offer ends up being the one that is taken, because, if you have a low bid set at whatever, $1 million, let's just say, for whatever item, and it gets bid up to $700,000, $800,000, like, I don't know. I think it's probably worth taking that offer, because it's only really $200,000 off. Like, sure, it might not be what you wanted, but the fact that somebody was willing to pay, and this comes into opportunity cost for some of these items, like the opportunity that someone has the money at the time that the card or the thing is willing to be sold, I think can be, I don't know, it can be one way or the other. It can be deterred, or it can be, you can think one way or the other, if it should have sold for that value, or you can take most of the time they'll allow you to do the price that you're thinking of, I think, or the price that you want. And even if it's with the opportunity, the opportunity that somebody has the money to pay for your thing, and that the person is willing to buy it and you're selling it at the same time, I feel like can be rare in such an era like nowadays, especially where we're not seeing $1 million sales of cards anymore. So if you have that low value and you have the money or you have the value set at a certain amount, it's probably worth taking whatever it's valued at, obviously within reason, depending on how much different it could be. But I think one way or the other, in my opinion, I think if someone's willing to spend a certain amount to get an item at a certain price point, and you want more money for that price point and you don't take the offer, I don't know if that's the best move. So, Heritage is putting this at $1 million. If this bat sells, or if it gets up to $800,000, $900,000, I would say it would probably be in the best interest of the person to sell it at that price. I mean, unless you're like a Jackie Robinson collector and you really, you don't want to sell it, that could be the other thing. Like, that's kind of the other reason why people would use that. Because I know that's happened on eBay, where people will list items for a certain value, which is way higher than it actually should be. But there's basically to be like, hey, I have this thing. So I don't know. I don't think that's what this will be. We'll see if it goes for $1 million. But it really, in my opinion, is a one of one, and is a significant piece in history because of the name and the prestige that comes with anything that is rare for Jackie Robinson.